The opening shots of the film is going to be one of the most important visuals you're going to work on throughout the production. It's how you sell your audience in the film you're about to watch. It sets the atmosphere and tone, it provides the first piece of visual information and storytelling, it gives you a chance to introduce your audience to the elements of your theme or event problem as early as possible. A fantastic example of this is Her, a film where a man seeks connection with the people around him. He wants to love and be loved. The opening shot moves from the blackness with a simple title into a close-up of his face as he reads a letter about love and companionship. We see his isolation from the people and world around him right from the very first frame, and it instills a psychological understanding of the character that will reinforce our perception of him throughout the film. In Fall of the Crystal Empire, they also choose to go with a black screen and a title in white, which can be very effective. I've used this myself in other occasions and I've enjoyed its use in other films. But why doesn't it work here? The first major reaching is framing. The first thing the audience is likely to notice is the large spire on the left of the screen, as it's the largest thing we see. Then our eyes are likely to drop to the opposite end of the screen, on the bottom right, where we see Luna and Celestia standing watching. This is because they're characters who are familiar with us, and because our eyes naturally seek out faces. Now, typically, this would be a phenomenal opening, if not for several mistakes. The first is that it's far too short, lasting around 5 seconds. There's a lot of information for us to take in, the two objects of interest being on opposite ends of the screen, our brains still attempting to determine the location and world, and, even worse, there's text over the screen for the entire duration of the shot, meaning that we're not taking in the content of the shot because we're being forced to either read the text or try and see what's happening on the shot behind the text. And this isn't easy considering that the tower is cut off at the top, and the camera pans very quickly downward. Not to mention the tower's design is so spiky and formless that interpreting its shape is even more work for our brain. That's a lot of information to process in the very first shot of the film, especially when it ends after 5 seconds, and the characters start talking to us to present the story, which I'll get to in a moment. This is an opening shot that needed to be longer, more dramatic, and more well thought out. It's clear to see that imparting information about the setting was the most important thing to the director, but if he was already using the black title cards to do that, why didn't he just keep it that way and leave the opening shot unmolested? This shot could be fixed by setting the camera further away from the objects of interest, letting us see the full size of the tower taking up the screen from the bottom left to the top left, without any hills in the way. Then, on the far right, standing on the edge of the mountain, are Luna and Celestia. If you want to have text, then use all the opening space we just left in the screen. But I'm still against that. The effect we have now is a more simplified but still powerful opening shot. The size difference between the tower and our protagonist is great enough that the antagonism feels foreboding right from the start. We have a visual metaphor of what these two have to conquer. I would also recommend littering the ground at the bottom with small fires like the aftermath of a great battle. Let us see the consequences of Sombra's actions, and allow us to see more reason for the anger that Celestia seems to bear to him later in the film. If you really want to hammer in the point, maybe open with an entirely different shot, showing the consequences of the battle right from the start. I'm going to take an example from a brief animation Stable-Tech Studios did a few years ago. Now, I'm using this example purely for the content of the frame, not for the color grading, because that clashes very heavily with the aesthetic of the film. Okay, so here's my mock-up of a potential opening. Thank you for watching this brief preview of what's to come. In Caffeine and Creators 3, I'll be spending an hour breaking down Silly Philly's animation, Fall of the Crystal Empire, focusing on the screenwriting, editing, animation, cinematography, sound design, and music. I'll also explain why the shot of the waving flag works as an opening shot, why I decided to add subtitles to it, a complete rewrite of the animation story based on the screenwriting theory I discussed throughout the video, and much, much, much more. The final product should be ready within the next 2 weeks, and I will see you then. Thank you for watching.